Hi everybody, I am live streaming right now. I'm attempting to do a live stream from two platforms at the same time, so don't mind me here as I try to figure this out because technology is difficult and sometimes things happen. So I'll be looking at two different cameras. I'm going to be looking at my Instagram camera to my right and my Facebook Live camera to my left. So I wanted to go ahead and focus on a couple of different things today. As you might have noticed, I've been putting out different materials and content for Compassion Coaching, which is the company that I'm founding on relationships and the formation of relationships, starting on the basis of self-love. So I wanted to check in with everybody today to follow up on some of the topics that I've been posting about. So I've been putting a lot of content about how our relationships start with ourselves and how, in order to be able to create the foundation for a stable and a loving partnership, it really begins with our journey for self-love and how we interact with and relate to ourselves. So self-love is something that is very abstract sometimes, and it can be taken to mean so many different things. But within the context of what I do and within the context of my company, self-love means taking care of and nourishing ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So self-love can appear in so many different ways. And whether it's going on a nature walk in the morning for you, whether it's sitting down with a cup of hot tea and coffee to read a book and relax on a Sunday afternoon, whether it is spending time with someone who you love and care about deeply, that you know once you spend time with them, you're going to feel recharged and you're going to just feel like your soul's lit up on fire and just warmth, then all of those are incredible examples of self-love. So you know what works best for you. Now, when we're in a relationship, a lot of the times there's a tendency for the person who's engaging in that relationship to invest so much time and energy in the other person that sometimes we lose track of our own self-love mechanisms and we fall short. So what I mean by that is sometimes when we're in a new relationship, we end up getting so caught up in that fire and that excitement that we feel when we're with the other person and when we're getting to know that person. So when we're first dating, and that's perfectly enjoyable and fine and normal, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, the important part is just keeping track of your routine and keeping track of your own priorities as well before you take the next step to merging your priorities and merging your identity with that person that you're interested in. So for me, self-love starts with defining those boundaries, which we talked about during week one I believe it was 2 weeks ago, where we talked about what boundaries mean to me, what boundaries mean to my partner or the people, whoever you end up dating, and being able to be consistent with that, but also being able to mold and shift your boundaries over time as they adapt and as they change. So now that we have a better understanding of self-love in terms of how I use it in my coaching, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was about looking at the roots of challenges or problems versus the symptoms of challenges or problems. And I uploaded a post about this that really briefly summarized what I meant between the difference of a root versus a symptom. So a lot of the times we will see symptoms of problems come up, and those start in the form of thoughts. So whether it's a thought, let's say, all the good ones are taken, or all of my dates are failures. I can never seem to get someone to stick around. Or maybe it's a thought like, I'll just never find love. It's not out there. It's too complicated. Honestly, it's not worth my time. I just don't have time or energy for this. I need to focus on different things. Those are all what I would call symptoms, not roots. And when we go a layer deeper, we end up being able to see that behind each one of those really nagging and persistent thoughts that comes up often over a lifetime. It's usually not a one-time thing. It's usually something that we hear over and over again in our minds of those symptoms. Behind all of those, there's always a root that I would say runs deeper. So by that I mean, when I say a root, I mean something that we learned through sociocultural interactions, something we learned through the way we were raised, something we learned through the media that we consumed. And a lot of that frames the way that we view relationships and the way that we think relationships should unfold, and that there are various stages that relationships have to go through, and you have to follow a sequence of steps in order to get to the relationship that you desire. So For example, if you watched rom-coms like I did often, romantic comedy movies, a lot of the times they show relationships evolving in a certain way and going through certain steps. And when we step out of those steps and of the way that that evolves, there can be a lot of confusion and even doubt and self-doubt. So another issue too is that a lot of the media that we consume is very heteronormative. If you're not familiar with the term, definitely worth a search to look it up. Heteronormative and very confined within a certain structure of here's what relationships look like, here are the steps that they take to progress, and anything outside of that is something that we don't talk about or something that maybe is taboo or something that we don't focus on as much. So it makes it hard for people who are in unique relationships, multicultural relationships, diverse relationships, LGBTQI plus relationships, to be able to see themselves accurately represented in the media that we consume. So I caution against forming these structured ideas of what relationships look like, and I caution against feeling confined by those or limited by that. So whether you end up meeting someone and, you know, becoming, let's say, engaged or married to that person in 2 weeks' time or 2 months' time or 2 years' time or 10 years' time, we tend to make these ideas of how we think relationships should be based on the things that we've learned throughout our past. So a lot of our roots are rooted in there, and what I strive to help people do is to understand those roots and to understand how to better be able to process that, so that way you can open up new space to be able to welcome in new aspects to the relationship or the relationships that you're forming that might not have been possible earlier. So it's something that is incredibly rewarding, starting to work on that process of allowing that and opening up space for that. And once we start seeing past those beliefs of the things that have held us back before, thoughts like, I should be careful, you know, I really need to be more cautious before I emotionally open up, people are out to, you know, get what they need, or people are selfish, I need to protect myself. There are a lot of thoughts and beliefs that come into dating, especially like I talked about before with online dating. So just looking through what are those beliefs that I hold, the symptoms that I see coming up, and then what's the deeper root behind that? Because I would venture to say that the root is always rooted in some sense of fear or lack. So whenever we have a sense of, I should be cautious, I should be careful, usually that is coming from a place of fear or of lack of something not being met. So if you are interested in those types of conversations and in understanding more about that and about yourself, because it's a process of self-understanding before we can open up to loving and understanding someone else fully, then this is definitely the place to be. My channel will definitely be a place that you receive benefit or receive at least whatever you can get out of it, whether that's a pointer or a reminder or some type of knowledge, because I plan on continuing to deliver that content to the extent that I can. Other than that, I think that pretty much covers it. There are so many facets to this, and I can't wait to keep on discovering, because self-love is something I prioritize very greatly. I shared a little bit in a previous post about parts of my self-love journey and the ways that that has been something that's constantly evolving for me and progressing for me. And one of the things that I prioritize very deeply is using painful moments and really challenging life changes to be able to evolve and to grow, and to be able to come out better on the other side, and to be able to be a stronger and a more wholesome or holistic version of myself when I'm going through a challenge in my life. So that is something too that is just a beautiful process, and it's part of the process of life and of learning about ourselves and of learning how to take things in stride and to be the best versions of ourselves that we can. So more about that, and I will continue to share more about my personal experiences with that and things relating to what I found passion in and the ways that I found meaning throughout the really, really challenging and critical moments of my life. So I hope you have a beautiful weekend. If anyone is going on anything fun for Halloween or going on a date, please share. I would love to know about that. How are you celebrating Halloween? How are you overcoming those fearful thoughts? How are you overcoming those challenges? Are there any limiting beliefs that are coming up? relating to relationships, relating to dating, relating to self-love, self-appreciation. What might those look like? So if you have any of that, definitely share that with me, and we can talk more about that and more about specifics. But it's Halloween, so it's going to be a time to celebrate and a time to be around people. Well, given pandemic restrictions, be around people in whatever capacity you're comfortable being around them or able to. But let me know how it goes and keep me updated. And I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your weekend. Happy Halloween, and thank you for watching. Bye.